Okay, so let us begin looking at the Persian Wars. Just as Athens achieves full democracy, trouble comes knocking. The Persian Wars. The Persians are going to come toward Greece. And the year that this happens is 499, the year of the trouble. And then relatively this happens over just a short period, 479. But it's going to leave a mark. This will be Greece's great moment here when they take on the Persian Empire. So what are we talking about here? Well, look at the Persian Empire coming out of Persia here. Present-day Iran, expanding all the way to the Indus River, expanding to Egypt, Asia Minor, and then you can see Greece on the edge of the map. They're on the edge of the known world. So they've been living in a fool's paradise. They've been living on the edge of civilization in their own little world, developing democracy and fighting each other quite a bit. So at this time, now that Greece is achieving democracy in various places, the Persian Empire is under an emperor Darius, or you can call him Darius. This empire has gotten so large now that the emperor is breaking it into provinces or states. They use the word satrapy, and you won't see this word again, but the provinces of the Persian Empire are called satrapies, and he will place them under satraps. A satrapy, a province under a provincial ruler, probably from the royal family, probably an uncle or a nephew somewhere, a member of the royal family, to rule over the satrapies. So lots of satraps all over. And the thing about the Persian Empire, the way this empire functions, is going to be kind of important, what we're talking about. They function by tribute. This is not unusual. This is how empires function. When they take over your land, they demand a tribute. And so you pay. These aren't the Assyrians, these aren't the Chaldeans, these are the Persians. So the tribute is actually kind of light. They don't take all your money, but they will tax you in tribute. They also want men. They want manpower. This is kind of a new thing. You will contribute men to the empire. And what do they do with these men? Well, they will put them in the army. The Persians will have an international army. What used to be just a mass of Persians as a fighting force, the Persians have become officers, leaders of this bigger army. The army grows really huge as these units from all these different provinces fill it out. We think, and this is a guess, but up to maybe 250,000 men in this army. I just want to put this in perspective. An Assyrian army, one of the great fighting forces, maybe 40,000 at its max. If they were really massed for a great battle, maybe 40,000 men. These Persians now, 250,000 men massing in an army. That requires logistics. They obviously are doing that pretty well. But nothing can stand up to this. This is how the empire just rolls, is that as they come to your province, you just roll over. The tribute will be light. You'll give away some of your young men to them and just be part of the empire. But it's a massive army. There will be an elite group. They will have a core of elite Persians. These are called the Immortals. They're kind of famous as the shock troops. When the Immortals go into combat, nothing can stand up to them. They're called the Immortals because they are maintained at 10,000. Every time an Immortal dies, there'll be another one to step into his place. So these are the elite Persians. These would be like the original Persians letting their boys into the Immortals, whereas everyone else is just part of the Imperial army. As they take over Greece, or as they move toward Greece into Asia Minor, they take over the Greek cities in Asia Minor. The area is called Ionia. This will be the western edge of modern-day Turkey or Asia Minor. There were Greek cities there, and the Greek cities submitted. It's actually really easy to submit. You just offer a bowl of water and a bowl of land in symbolism that the Persians now own your water and your land, and you are paying tribute to them. But in 499, the Greeks don't go easily into this idea. The Greeks are very independent-minded and very warlike. And in 499, these Ionian Greeks rose up against the Persians. It's quite a big revolt. This is pretty big news. I'm sure Darius did not take kindly to that. And Athens sent aid. Now, we talked about the Greek city-states not helping each other much. This is actually kind of strange that Athens would do this, would send aid across the Aegean to help these other Greek city-states. And it went to no good. The revolt was crushed. The Persians just have a massive number of armies to send, and you can't stand up against them. But the revolt was crushed. But Athens was noticed. The emperor and other Persians will notice that the Greek revolt was aided by a city on the edge of the world called Athens, and Athens was noticed now. And Emperor Darius I will begin to move against the city of Athens for sticking its nose into imperial business. In 492, he will organize a naval expedition, a punitive expedition, to go over and smack Athens down. And they actually got wrecked by storms. This original mission by sea was smashed by storms in 492, and so they'll have to wait 2 years. 490 is the year of the actual landing near Athens. They will send 490 BC, they will send 25,000. This is a guess now. The Greek records have it at 100,000, but that's impossible by modern recollections. So maybe 25,000. We figure 25,000. That would be a good attack force. That's bigger than anything the Greeks can field. So and a few cavalry. Actually, the cavalry plays a little bit of a role here. We haven't talked about the Greeks having cavalry, so this would be basically unstoppable. The Greeks aren't cavalrymen. And on the way over across the Aegean, the Persians will capture a few islands on the way over, and will land near Athens at a place called Marathon. I think maybe you might have heard something about this word. The place should ring a bell. It's just a little fishing village at this time, not too far from Athens, 26 miles. So the Athenians are now in great danger. The empire has landed right near you, 26 miles away, and appear to be moving toward Athens. So what do you do? Here's a map showing the Peloponnesus, and then Athens on this peninsula. Rather than land on this side of the peninsula, the Persians land on the backside, this eastern side of the peninsula, at a place called Marathon, 26 miles away. So Greece isn't a large place, as you can see, but this would have set the alarm bells off that the Persians have landed near Athens. What do? The empire has landed near you and going to crush you. Well, they send out runners for help. They will send runners all over Greece, running to all the different cities, asking for help, and the response is going to be a resounding no. Sparta, in fact, 100 plus miles away, will respond that they're in the middle of a religious time, and so they just can't make it. But good luck against the empire that you messed with. Sparta doesn't mess with anybody, and so this isn't their fight. Athens will march out. They will send their phalanx out. They will not wait for the Persians to come to them. They will attack. This is actually a pretty good strategy in warfare, is to attack instead of waiting for the enemy to attack you. How big is the Athenian phalanx? About the same size as the Spartan phalanx. Pretty much the same size of all Greek phalanxes. They've kind of maxed out at about 9,000 men. And so the Athenian phalanx marches out 26 miles out to Marathon. They did get a little bit of help. A nearby city called Plataea offered 1,000 men. So a nice gesture there, I guess. So you now have 10,000 Greeks, Athenians, and Plataeans out at Marathon. They march out to Marathon. They see the Persians on the beach, landing 25,000 men, 1,000 horsemen. So you've got 10,000 Greeks now watching on the beach these 25,000 Persians. What do you do? What do we do? That's an outnumbering 2.5 to 1. And they actually discussed this, according to their records, for a couple of days. I'm guessing it probably wasn't for a couple of days. It was probably done pretty quickly here. Once they came up and saw that the Persians needed to be attacked, they will finally get a general. Miltiades will take over the army and declare, we're going to attack. We're going to attack them on the beach. This will be going downhill toward the beach. And this is a Greek description of the attack with the Persians in the bay here. And according to the Greek accounts, there were 100,000 Persians. No, 25,000 max. And then the Greeks come down with 10,000 Greeks. Notice their numbers are correct, but they always exaggerate the Persians. So they come down off the high ground, hit the Persians on the beach with their boats in the bay. Here's a West Point map. This is taught at West Point. This is, if you're going to teach ancient warfare, you need to understand how the Greek phalanx functions. Here's a West Point map with the Persians on the beach. The Greeks just come down on them, screaming down from the higher ground onto the beach. They have their phalanx in a line. And if you'll notice the arrow here, we think they hit the Persian army, and then the Persian numbers came to bear, and the Athenians are pushed back. So this appears to be possibly a defeat. What the Athenians have done, though, is they split off two smaller units on either wing, and as the Persians begin to move forward, they're hit on either wing by these extra phalanxes. This is where the years of combat have come in, that Athenians have been waging war for hundreds of years in almost kind of ritualistic practice against other cities. And so they're able to do this. They're able to issue commands like this to stretch their phalanx, break off units, and swarm in on the flanks. In ancient warfare, if you're facing forward, your flanks are exposed. You have no armor on your flanks to speak of. And when enemy hits you on the flank here, there's no defense against that. And lines of phalanxes begin to get rolled up as just people get crushed in this attack like this. So the Battle of Marathon is a huge victory for the Athenians. This is the destruction of this Persian army. It just collapses, outnumbering the Athenians 2.5 to 1. It just turns into a rout as the Persians their units just disintegrate. And again, you have to remember, who are their units? It's an international army made up of all different kinds of forces. They probably don't speak the same language except for a few commands in Persian. They're not Persian. They really don't want to be here unless there's something to loot. And this army just routs. According to the Greek accounts, they left 6,400 dead soldiers on the beach. That's a massacre. Not a complete massacre. Most of them get back to the boats. But the Athenians report they only lost 192 men. That is a wipeout. 192 dead Athenians versus 6,400 dead Persians or dead Persian soldiers on the beach. That is a destruction. The battle actually isn't over at that point. Now that the Persians are back in their boats, over here at Marathon, they could actually sail back around the peninsula and attack Athens from Piraeus here. This is when the running takes place, is after the battle's over, the phalanx has to run back to protect Athens. And so that's where the real run is, the Athenian run back to Marathon. There's a lot of running here. The initial messengers running, the initial report of the victory runner, but basically also the phalanx has to run back to Athens to defend it. And so they have to run 26 miles back to Athens in full armor or carrying their armor. That would have been impressive. Not just a small skinny guy running, but the entire phalanx running back to Athens and then on to the port of Piraeus. And according to one Greek account that as the Persians came around by Athens, they saw these same Athenians on the beach. The same phalanx that had won the Battle of Marathon is waiting for them on this beach. And they retire. So the Battle of Marathon didn't destroy the army, but the mere fact that Athenians had run across the peninsula to meet them on the other side, that's enough for the Persians. They will retire. So the Battle of Marathon has won. They've defeated the evil empire. I use the word evil if you're a Greek. But it's a great moment for Athens. The empire has landed, was going to destroy them, and they have defeated the empire. So it's a great moment. The underdog has won. They've defeated the empire, and the empire have to retire away from Greece. The Greeks speak now of what makes them so great, their westernness. The Greeks will call themselves Western now. They're on the western edge of the empire, when the empire are the Easterners. So the word east is used. And the Greek word, in case you're wondering, the Greek word for east is oriental. The Orientals of the east have been defeated. What kind of government do they have? Despots. Emperor Darius. From what the Greeks have heard, you have to grovel before him. He sits on a throne and people can't look him in the face, and he's just completely despotic and evil. What are his people like? They're slaves. Again, this is the Greek account. The Persian account or the Hebrew account, even in the Bible, it's not that bad. As empires goes, it's not that bad. But to the Greeks, they're the mortal enemy now. The Greeks will claim that they are Westerners. And the Greek word is Occidental. So the Greeks are Occidental. What makes them great? They've developed democracy. They have hoplites who defend their city because they have voting rights. They're free men defending their own cities. So I do want to remind you that they've defeated the empire here at Marathon, but you drew the attention before, and now you've really drawn the attention of the Persians, the fact that you've defeated them. Because if you're trying to run an empire, you can't let this go. You cannot let a these strange Greeks defeat an imperial army and just walk away. They must be defeated. And so the Greeks realize this, and the Greeks are going to have to prepare now for another invasion. It takes 10 years, actually. It takes 10 years for the next invasion to come.